when I coach players, I want them to think back positively and that they learn something from me, even if it's something small. I just want to be able to help them in the
In the
future.
game of football, wisdom's key. Listeners tuning in deep like the sea. From the pitch to the mic, we share our dreams. Voices echoing loud, hear the passion's themes. Passion and knowledge, that's our goal. Stories unfold, let's take control. From the field we rise, let the voices be heard. Every insight shared, every single word. Football's the game, but wisdom's the prize. Join the conversation.
Hello, welcome to From the Field, Voices of Football. Today I'm thrilled to introduce legend of the game, Coach Darren Back, who has been shaping the next generation of soccer talent at the Portland Timbers Academy since 2019. Coach Darren Back, thank you so much for coming on this podcast with me.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
It's an honor to have you on here. I know you've been developing the new generation of talent now in Portland Timbers.
Yep. For the past 5 years, been in Portland. How time flies.
When you're having fun, right?
Yeah, exactly. And throw in COVID as well.
So, but let's go back to the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know you're from England. Can you take us on a journey back to your childhood and those early moments, memories, growing up in England? How was it for you?
Yeah, so I grew up in a military family. So we bounced around the UK and Europe in my younger years. I remember predominantly playing soccer on the streets, jumpers for goalposts, as they say. I didn't play competitive soccer until I was about 12 years old. I didn't want to. I just had too much fun playing with my friends, and it was some friends at school, and my dad convinced me to play competitive soccer. So I didn't start playing until I was 12. And then it wasn't until probably 15, 16, I started playing in the lower leagues in England, semi-professional soccer. And then how time flies, like I said. And then 6 years later, I end up in the US playing collegiate soccer. So time flew by.
Okay.
But yeah, I can remember my first pair of soccer cleats. They were Pumas because I like Paul Gascoigne.
Okay.
So that shows you how old I am now.
Growing up in England, right, which is a country of football, their main sport. Was that the only sport you were going for, or did you try out other sports before you?
No, to be honest, I think it was part of the culture. We ate and breathed soccer, and we'd play it every single day during lunchtime at school. And then there were certain other sports that we would play, like rugby, for example, at school. But then we convinced the PE teacher just to let us play soccer the entire year.
Okay.
And that's all I was ever interested in. So yeah, play it at school, play it after school, play it at the weekend, play with my friends on the streets. So there wasn't really any other sport that interested me. I would play tennis every now and then and rugby, but nothing serious other than soccer.
So it was just soccer from the beginning.
Yeah, just 100% soccer.
Okay. And you mentioned the culture. You grew up in a culture where soccer was a main sport. Is that what fueled your passion for it as well?
Yeah, I think when you're consumed by the environment and the culture of soccer, you start watching it at an early age, and you just want to be a part of it, and you just love it, and that creates the passion. And I think we're starting to see that now in the US. It's amazing how soccer has evolved over here. I've been in the country now nearly just over 20 years, and we're now seeing young kids that have grown into young adults, and that's what creates a fan base. Those young kids that played from an early age, and they get older and they become part of clubs, and then their children will do the same. And I think that's how a culture is created. It's just having that passion to play and watch the game. And you can feel it when you go to games in the UK. Just sitting there in the stands, there's so much passion and intensity from the crowd. They live for the weekend, and there's a lot of rivalries over there, so they take it very seriously.
Now, I know you also played in the FA Youth Cup, right? The FA Cup and the FA Vase.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Can you describe your experiences in those competitions and how they shape your playing career?
I think playing in the lower leagues at a young age, it taught me a lot. It definitely made me grow up faster. I was playing with men at the age of adults at the age of 16, and I learned what a competitive environment was.
Okay.
I would see in the locker room things that I never thought I'd see with coaches and players fighting. But it taught you what competition was and the fine line between success and failure. And the other side of it, you learn the game as well. I was surrounded by players. I mean, at the level I played at, they were coming towards the end of their career. But you learn so much about the game through them, and I think that was very valuable for me as a young player, being experienced to that. And then it helps you as you grow older as a player, but now as a coach, trying to pass that on to younger players now who have ambitions to be a professional.
Okay. At what point did you because I know after you came to the United States and played for college, right?
Yes.
So how was that experience as well for you coming to, I don't know, had you been to the United States before that?
Just to visit. Yeah, just to visit. So I came to the US when I was probably 22, 23. And I was realistic enough to know that I'd kind of hit a ceiling. I didn't know anything about college soccer. I came to experience a different culture, a different environment. And obviously just to continue studying. And I really enjoyed the experience. Just like I said, just it's completely different to what I'd been used to. So played collegiate soccer for a couple of years, and then that's how I got into coaching. Because prior to that, I always wanted to be involved in the game. Once I'd stopped playing, I just didn't know exactly what it was that I'd do. Initially, I thought it'd be on the performance side, as I was a personal trainer back in the UK. But then I started coaching whilst I was playing collegiate soccer, and that's when the passion for coaching really started for me.
Okay. So when you decided you're gonna be a coach, when that passion started for coaching, right? Did you go talk to a coach like, hey, can you give me some pointers or some advice?
Initially, when I first started coaching, it was just the enjoyment of helping young kids, and I was working grassroots soccer. So there'd be days where I'd go run a clinic for 4-year-olds at a kindergarten.
Okay.
And then I'd work with 16-year-olds that were close to 17-year-olds that were close to graduating high school. I think when it started becoming serious. The best people that give me advice were the people I work with. And that's how, you create a coaching philosophy, is learning from really good people. And it doesn't matter how long you coach for, you realize how much you don't know when you meet good people. And that's how, I've developed as a coach, is just trying to absorb as much as possible from the people I've met.
Okay. You ran clinics for 4 years and then 16, 17 years old, the same day, or was that different days?
No. So when I first started coaching, I was trying to do whatever I could to coach, and then also make money because I wasn't coaching full time. So a typical day for me would be running a clinic for a daycare or a kindergarten for 4 or 5-year-olds, and then in the afternoon coaching college soccer,
Okay.
assistant there, and then in the evening working for a local club and maybe coaching a U12 girls team and coaching a U16 boys team. So I was trying to expose myself to absolutely everything, and just coach as much as possible, because I knew that would help me improve.
Okay.
Um, and it was very good because you learn the different phases of development, and it tested you in different ways.
I bet coaching 4 years old, that's a little tough right there.
Takes a lot to coach young kids, yeah,
Takes a lot of patience, don't it?
without a doubt, without a doubt.
How'd you manage there? Because like I said, little kids sometimes they don't listen to you and they go do their own thing. So how'd you manage with all the patience?
Uh, I think I think we touched on this earlier. Like, it's you want in young players or young kids anyway. You want to develop a love for the game. You want them to be passionate when they get older to love the game. So at the younger ages, 4, 5, 6, 7, you just want them to have fun,
Okay.
and you have to help run a session or an activity with them where they're just having fun, so they enjoy playing, and that's all it was with those ages, and not taking yourself too seriously, and just being there for the players.
Okay.
And I think that's something valuable that you can take as you progress with older age groups.
Okay. And then after your time doing these clinics, is that when you went to work for the union, or at what point did you go into? Because I know you work for union.
Yeah, so I first went to Houston Dynamo, and I was working in the youth programs down there, working with kind of U10s to U12s, and then also within the academy, U15, assisting with the older age groups, U16, U18, and then at the time the reserve team, which was like a U23s, and then I went to the Philadelphia Union after Houston Dynamo,
Okay.
and predominantly worked with the U15, U16 age groups.
Okay. Oh, sorry. So having worked in different parts of the United States as a coach, from you mentioned yourself, the Union, Houston Dynamo, and now even in Portland Timbers. How has your experience across all these clubs and different regions shaped your coaching philosophy?
I think the environments don't necessarily shape your coaching philosophy. Um, the environments help you learn more about what's required in player development. So, for
Okay.
example, Philadelphia at the time were and they still are one of the leading academies in the country, and we had a lot of resources. So you knew you learned like these are all the things that are required to be successful. But that's just a small part of player development, is having the resources available. And then working at Houston, and now Portland, we initially here at Portland we didn't have a lot of resources, and now we've progressed to where we're now having more support in that area. So you had to learn it. I had to learn it, Houston and Portland, how to maximize what I did have. And it's really easy to say, well, we can't be successful because we don't have this, this, and this. But you have to then challenge yourself, and as staff and as an academy, well, how can we be creative? What do we have, and how do we maximize what we have to be and put ourselves in the best possible position to be successful? And that's what I've learned the most about working at different clubs. In terms of my philosophy, coaching philosophy, I think that's been developed and defined by the people I've worked um, learning from different people with different backgrounds and experiences, learning what's worked, what hasn't worked, picking up things, what did I like, what did I not like about what I've experienced. So my philosophy has been shaped by the people I've met and worked with, and it continues to evolve. And I don't think a coaching philosophy is necessarily how I see the game and how it should be played. It's more about who I am as a person, and how does that reflect in the way I work, in the way I teach. And I'm a big believer in performance as a reflection of leadership. So how on a Saturday am I seeing behaviors from players that reflects how I work, like who I am as a person, just the basic fundamentals. So that's more how I view a coaching philosophy.
Okay. Question before is who has been the most influential person in your coaching career so far?
Well, there's a few, to be honest.
Okay.
I think I've got a couple of people I've worked with who have helped me in different ways. I can't just pick out one person. For example, there's a gentleman called Ian Munro, who's an ex-Scotland international. I worked with him at Philadelphia, and working with him, he has great experience. He's played at the highest level, coached at the highest level, but he taught me, how to be patient with players and really self-reflect on how I'm teaching them. And then I've learned from other coaches. One in particular called Isaac Doro, who works for FIFA. He's coached and worked at the highest level around the world, and just being in a professional environment with him opened my eyes up to what standards and expectations are for an elite player. So I wouldn't say there's necessarily one person that's influenced me the most. There's been a lot of different people that I've been fortunate enough to have worked with and met that have helped me along the way.
Okay. Yeah, you take a little bit of the good stuff from everybody. Oh, I like this from here, this a little bit from over here. Is that?
Yeah, and not just the people you've worked with and met, is coaches that you've played under. You think back to times where you really enjoyed playing, and the coach you were playing for, and now I'm a coach. I look back at those times and go, wow, he got the best out of me. Why did he get the best out of me? So it's not just the coaches you've worked with, it's the coaches you've played for as well, the people you've met. And it's very important you reflect on that, and you take what you can from everybody, the good and the bad.
Of course. One of the things I learned because I recently took the D license, right? One of the things I learned was self-reflect. Like after a practice, do a self-reflection. That's kind of what you're mentioning, right?
Yeah. Oh, without doubt, you have to. And I think it's interesting. We're very demanding on young players. We often tell them how much they have to improve, and they have to add this to their game. And the question is, do we do that as coaches? Because it's very, very important. So yes, I try to self-reflect as much as possible. I think it's the only way you can get better, and be humble and understand that you're going to have bad sessions. It doesn't matter how much you prepared and planned; it may not go according to the plan you came up with. And players are going to challenge you, particularly at the higher level, where they're good players. They know the game, so it's very important that you're constantly trying to improve yourself by self-reflecting.
How do you manage that whenever like a player challenges you, or even the practice doesn't go your way, the way you had it, how you thought it was gonna go? How do you handle that?
I think it's a natural part of the process. You shouldn't be offended by a player questioning you. You should embrace it,
Okay.
because ultimately you're there to help guide them, and you're not the one playing. So whenever I speak to a player during training or even during a game at halftime, he's probably seeing something completely different to what I'm seeing from the sideline because he's in it in the moment.
Okay.
So I try to instill a lot of trust in the players. I want it to be an open dialogue. I don't want them to feel that they can't express their opinion. I'm not always going to agree with everything,
Of course.
but I want to help guide them. So, yeah, I just try to embrace it the best I can, because I think you can also, as a coach, although you're guiding players, you can learn a lot from your players if you're open-minded. If a session hasn't gone well, it's probably because the players are doing something that you haven't thought of, and that's great, And then it challenges you to improve what you did, and try to create a session that brings the best out of them, and challenges them.
Okay.
So,
do you think a player should be free to just free in the field, or do you try to control like almost every action the player tries to do in the field?
no, this is an interesting topic, because the game's evolved to it's become very structured in a sense. There's a lot of experienced coaches that have come out and said that we're not creating as many creative players now because everything's so structured.
Right.
I think it's having a balance and to help improve the players, but allowing them the freedom to express themselves at the same time. So it's trying to provide a structure for them to have freedom to express themselves. Because you don't just want players going anywhere on the field, but at the same time, you don't want to restrict them in any way. So it's finding a balance, I think, and not micromanaging what they do on the field.
Yeah. And how do you, I guess, because Pep Guardiola, he's a very successful coach, one of the most successful coaches, right? And that's his style of coaching, where he tries to micromanage almost every aspect of what the player does. And he's very successful. So, many coaches will try to follow his path as well. What do you think about that?
I can't. It's really hard. I will never comment or necessarily give my opinion on what they should and shouldn't do. I mean, Pep Guardiola is an unbelievable coach. He's one of the best ever, right? And he works with first-team players that are worth millions. And
of course. I
work with players in development. So my role is completely different to what he's doing, essentially. So I don't think there's a perfect way of doing anything.
Okay.
That's the beauty of soccer. It's based on opinions, and you should take something from everybody. I don't think there's a right or wrong way of doing it. It's just understanding why you're doing something. But like I said, I'm not going to comment on and say that Guardiola shouldn't be doing something. But yeah, it's just there's no right or wrong way of doing something. Clubs, if we're talking about player development, clubs all over the world do have a different process. But there's a reason why they do what they do, and I think it's important to understand that. So if I was to go visit a club, I would just absorb as much as possible on that visit and see what they're doing. But I think the important thing is, why are they doing that? And that's the key to understanding.
I think that's a very important, I like what you just say there, that why are you doing it?
Yeah. and I think you'll get that on the coaching courses now. The instructors will always ask you, well, why did you do that? Why did you stop play and instruct the player to do this? So, like I said, I don't think there's a perfect way ever of doing anything. It's just understand why you're doing something,
Okay.
and how it relates to the process, particularly in development.
So we're talking about a lot about development, right? Because you're a coach who's in the development. What's the most important aspect of the development for a player in the?
I think there's a lot of important aspects involved in player development. I think sometimes we can overcomplicate the process as coaches. I think it starts with creating a good culture and environment for that player to succeed. You don't always have a massive impact on a player. Sometimes you're just there to guide them on their journey. So it may be that you've just been a good friend to a player, and that's been all that player's needed at the time. Some players need more than others, but I think it starts with the environment and creating the right environment in terms of understanding what it takes to be successful as a player and go through the academy system and become a pro. I think there's certain characteristics that a player needs, regardless of how talented they are. I think there needs to be an intrinsic motivation to work hard and want to be better. I think I've worked with some players that are extremely talented, but I felt like I wanted it more than them. And when it gets to that point, then you know that in the long term, they may not make it. And they need to be selfless as well. They're going to have their own individual goals, what they want to achieve, but they have to learn to be part of a team because they need their teammates to help them succeed. It's very, very important that they're selfless. And then just being patient. I think that's one thing that I'm experiencing, have experienced a lot in recent years is, and maybe that society is had an impact on that, is we want everything now. And it's just being patient and resilient that you're part of a process and your development's not linear. You're going to have ups and downs. So those are important characteristics. And then every player needs a certain level of ability to make it to the top. But I think the approach I've taken, particularly with the age group I work with now, is identifying what they're very, very good at. Too often we focus on what they can't do. There's no doubt that every young player needs to add something to their game. But as they get closer to the first team level, it's, well, what's their biggest quality? We call it, in Portland, we call it, what's their superpower? What sets them apart from other players? And can we enhance that? And does the player understand what their strengths are? So if the player is self-aware and understands, this is my quality, these are the areas I'm not particularly good at that I'll continue to improve, but this is what I'm very good at. I think that goes a long way in helping players develop.
So if a player is good at heading the ball, you work more on that for him to keep developing that?
Yeah, it could be anything. It's just understanding what they're very, very good at. And can that translate to the next level? And enhancing that the best we possibly can. And I think, if you take a forward, for example, and we have a forward that's very good at link-up play, and we're like, right, this is your key quality, this is your superpower. So what are the different elements involved in this quality that we can enhance so it's going to help you when you step up into the first team? And then what can we then add to your game? Because players can't be great at everything. But they have to have something that sets them apart from other players.
Okay. How do you balance the technical, tactical, and mental side of the game?
It's a process from the younger age groups and during the different stages of development.
Okay.
Uh, so once they get to the older age groups, there's less focus
Hmm.
on the technical side of the game, although that's still very important. Uh, and we're trying to reinforce those technical elements, and then obviously they're starting to learn the game or understand the game in a different way. So when they get to me, it's, 16, 17, 18, they're now learning to compete and try and win. And what does that mean? And when they step into the first team training environment, they learn very quickly that they have to work hard and compete in absolutely everything they do. So it just depends on what stage of development the player's in. There'll be more or less emphasis on certain things.
Okay. At what point do you know what player is gonna make it?
If I knew the exact answer to that, I would be
Oh, Rich.
I would be a multi. Yeah, you, you can never really tell. You know when you see a very good player that's got a chance. And as I touched on earlier,
Mhm.
it's just guiding that player. For example, we have a young player that signed a professional contract last year, and you could just tell he had the potential to be a professional. He understood the game very well. He's technically very competent. You could play him in any position on the field, and he would understand how to do it. So when I was working with him, it wasn't necessarily I was telling him how to kick a ball, for example. It was
Mhm.
putting him in a position so he could highlight his qualities, and that's all I really did, along with providing the right environment for him and just guiding him to his next step
Okay.
on the so you can have players at young age have a chance, but then there's going to be some players that will surprise you, and maybe it's a player that doesn't that stand out, and they're not viewed as one of the top players in the group, but each year they get better and better. They adapt to the environment they're playing in. They adapt to the training environment if they're promoted into first team training, and all of a sudden they become a professional. So I think the key takeaway from that is being patient, giving every player a chance,
Okay.
and not writing any player off. But like I said, there's always going to be some players that right away are on a pro pathway, and then it's your job to guide them there.
Okay. Whenever, like you mentioned, a player kind of feels or knows that he's gonna make it, do their attitude changes, their work ethic, like, I don't have to work as much. I'm already on the pathway. Does that ever happen?
It happens a lot. It happens a lot, and I think that's something. And I touched on this earlier. It's something that I've experienced the last few years, but it's natural. A young player may experience a lot in a short space of time. So whether it's they've signed a contract and they're playing in the reserve team or training with the first team, but a year ago they were just playing in the academy.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden they have more exposure, and particularly with social media now, that has an impact. So it's all about trying to keep these players grounded because, as I said, their development is not linear. So they may have a lot of success, but all of a sudden, when they do step up to the next level, they experience adversity because it's not as easy as it was, and they don't have that instant success anymore. And it's just being patient in the process. They're going to have some ups and downs, and just trying to keep them grounded, and understanding that yes, okay, you've signed a contract, but that's you're a good player. That's the easy part. The hard part now is signing your next contract and creating a career. So it's just trying to keep the player grounded and patient. And it can be challenging at times because, as I said, in today's world, we want everything instantly, instant success. So it's understanding, making the player understand it's a process, and you can't put an exact timeline on success.
Okay. So you mentioned, they get the first contract, and you said that's the easy step, right? And then you have to get the second contract.
Yeah, not necessarily the easy step. If they're a good player and we know that's the track they're on, yes, it's we expected that to happen based on how we were predicting it. But the hard part now is if a 16-year-old has signed his first contract, is can you then get another contract in 2 years, 3 years time? As you're going to continue to work hard and develop, because when you get 18, 19, now you're signing a first team contract. So yes, that's definitely it. It's not necessarily easy to sign your first contract, but if you're a good player and as expected, it's what happens after that is staying there basically, which is the hardest part for a young player.
Okay. So the first contract is just pretty much like, hey, we have faith in you, stay here. The second contract is going into the first team or reserve team. Is that how
it's different for every player?
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
It's different for every player. I'm just going to give an example of some of the younger players we've signed recently at Portland Timbers, where they've signed to a T2 contract. It probably ranges between 2 and 3 years. So the clubs invest in their potential, but it's only a 3-year contract. So they within those 3 years they have to demonstrate that the club are willing to then further invest in them.
I'm so glad you're joining us for this conversation. If you're loving the insight so far, would you mind showing us some love? Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support means everything to us, and it helps us bring more amazing conversations your way. Bye.
And give them a first team contract after that. So it's every player is different. Every player has a different pathway and a different type of contract. But that's just based on some of the younger players that we've signed recently and what a lot of other MLS clubs have done as well.
Oh, okay. Makes sense now. Thank you.
Yeah.
What has been the most memorable moment for you so far?
In with regards to what exactly?
Coaching, your coaching experience, your coaching journey.
It's always seeing a player progress and become a professional. That's ultimately what my job is trying to help them on their way. So I've been fortunate to have worked with some great players who are now playing in Europe, and just being a part of their journey, even if I haven't had a big impact and I've just been there, it's still a privilege to be a part of their journey and just see how they've developed, not just as a player, as a person. You see a lot of these players, they come into the academy 12, 13, and then all of a sudden they're 18, 19, stepping foot on the first team field. And that's the highlight. That's why we do it. That's the most enjoyable part, is just helping a young player fulfill his dreams. And it may be not even becoming a pro, maybe a player that goes to college and is very successful. You've still played your part in helping them shape that player, that person, and help them set them up for success in future. So that's definitely the most enjoyable. That's the highlight of the job. Okay,
even if they become a coach, right?
Yeah,
you still play a part in their journey.
Yeah, and it's just helping them along the way. And like I said, sometimes as coaches, we don't play a massive role, and that's okay. You may have helped them in a way you didn't realize. It may be nothing to do with what you do on the field. It may be what you've done off the field for that player. But just to be part of their journey is a privilege, and to have some influence, some positive influence on them, um, that's the most enjoyable part of the job, without a doubt.
Okay. Yeah, I've always said, and I think we've said it before, they might not make it professional, but they're the next generation of parents, coaches, even referees.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, they'd be very brave if they want to be a referee now. I don't think I've got many players right now that want to be a referee. We actually we've done some local clinics in the community where our players have been coaches, and they really enjoyed it.
Okay.
But when they had to ref, they didn't enjoy it that much. So
Portland has a rich cultural, soccer cultural, right? And passionate fan base. How do you incorporate that cultural into the academy and inspire the young players to embrace the responsibility of playing for the Timbers?
I think it's just helping the players understand they're not just playing for each other. They're representing the city and the community, and it's a privilege to be part of the Portland Timbers Academy, because so many people would want to be in their shoes. So again, it helps keeping them grounded. But we're fortunate. We have a lot of really good kids who are from the area, and they've grown up here. That they understand the history and the culture. So I think they understand that. But yeah, it's just making them aware that then what they're playing for is bigger than what they realize. They're part of something really important here in the city.
Yeah, kind of like what Leicester City did when they won the champions, the Premier League. They went
Yeah,
out there and cleaned the streets and just did stuff with the community.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, it's. I think it's very important that the kids understand that. When they step on a field or they go to a tournament, we tell them you're not just playing for the club; you're playing for the city of Portland. You represent the city of Portland and the community, and you should be proud to wear the shirt or wear the badge. It's an honor,
Right.
and they understand that. So I think it's very good. We have a great soccer coach here in Portland.
Okay. You've coached in different levels, right? From professional academy to college soccer and everything in between. What excites you the most working with the 17 and 18 age group at the Portland Timbers Academy?
Say again, sorry.
What excites you the most
Oh,
about working with U17, U18 age group at the Portland Academy?
it's just to go on from what I said earlier is having an influence on these young players. They're kind of young boys starting to become young men,
Right.
17, 18, and having an influence on that and trying to help them in the process of developing as a player and as a person. And you can see over the course of the year how much a player develops, not just physically but emotionally. And it's trying to instill good habits and good characteristics in those players. So I think that's what's really enjoyable. And then also being part of their journey, their process. As I said, this is the kind of the last step in the academy before they either go to college or they sign a contract and play for T2 or the first team. So it's trying to help them achieve those things. So I enjoy working with this age group a lot because of those reasons.
Okay. And I know you're doing a wonderful job because I've seen, like we mentioned before, Adrian Pelayo went to Guadalajara. Daniel Nunez playing for Mexico national U17 team. Then you have other players that are already committed for college. So I know you're doing a wonderful job over there, and Thank you so much for that. What you're doing for the next generation of players.
I appreciate that. And like I said, sometimes we don't have. It's not as if we're doing something specific all the time. I may have played a small part in their journey, because so many people on their journey have an influence, whether it's the athletic trainer, the performance coach, the assistant coach, the residency manager, if they're staying in the residency. There's so many people that have a part of their journey. So I view it more of a collective effort in helping a player become successful or achieve his goals. And we're always proud when they do.
Right. Yeah, I know. Like in my case, you know, I don't remember the games that I won, but I remember what my coaches said about me when I was playing. You know.
Yeah, exactly. And it goes back to when we discussed coaching philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
I remember clearly all the great coaches I've worked for and how they impacted me personally. And I think you take that away as a player. So now when I coach players, I want them to think back positively and that they learn something from me. Even if it's something small, I just want to be able to help them in the future, or have played a part in helping them.
Absolutely. Yep.
So,
Because ultimately that's what we're doing, right? Just helping
yeah,
them in the journey.
yeah, exactly. And we just want them to be as successful as possible, and trying to help them the best way we can. I think it's more than just helping them on the field. We can be really influential off it as well.
I agree completely with you there. A question I forgot to ask earlier was, you mentioned a safe environment, but how do you create that safe environment for the players?
It's trying to them understanding that they can express themselves, and not be afraid to make mistakes. So I want them to be able to trust me. So when you create a competitive learning environment, or a culture, you want those players to maximize their potential the best they can. And players won't do that if they're fearful of making a mistake, or they feel pressured too much. So it's trying to make the players feel safe in terms of they can trust me. So on a Saturday, they go out and they work the hardest, they do their best, but they're not afraid to play and express themselves. I think that's really, really important, because the last thing you want is a player who fears making a mistake because the coach is going to yell at them.
Right.
So, you just want to create that environment for them, but they are trying to do their best and express their qualities.
Okay. There's times where a player just naturally is like afraid, I guess, in a way. How do you manage that? How do you help him, I guess, not be afraid?
It's a good question, because I'm seeing more and more of that, and maybe it's because of the culture and society we live in, where they're afraid to make mistakes.
Oh, okay.
But it's trying to make the player have a positive mindset. And a simple way we do it in terms of coaching is, if a player makes a mistake in a game, you can often dwell on that mistake. And I've been a player and I've done it myself, and that then will affect you for the next 10 minutes, or it could affect you for the entire game. But creating a positive mindset is, if a player makes a mistake, it's getting them to do something positive immediately after that mistake. Okay. So something really, really simple is, if a player's nervous, a defender's nervous, playing out the back, And we want the boys to play out of the back. We want them to have the confidence to play out of the back and not fear losing the ball. But if a player's made a couple of passes, the first thing I'll look for, and I'll tell the players, how did you react to that mistake? Because I know you're not trying to give the ball away.
Right.
You're trying your best. So the positive reaction would be trying to win the ball back if you're the closest player. And right away, you're now creating a positive mindset with a player that he's not thinking about, oh, I've made a mistake. He's thinking about, I want to try and win the ball back. And that's just a simple example of how you try to create a positive mindset in a player that's very nervous all the time. And it happens. It happens. And then also, as I've touched on, making the player understand what his qualities are and his strengths and think more about that than what he can't do.
Okay.
Going into a game and visualizing what he wants to do because he's good at it. And that all comes in preparation. And that's something we work on a lot with the players is trying to think more positively, thinking more about what they're very good at and trying to express that on the field and understanding that they're not going to be yelled at for trying to do the right thing. And if they make mistakes, we're just going to help them and show them what they could have done. But I want them to keep trying. And that's part of being in player development. They're going to make mistakes all the time. But they shouldn't fear making a mistake. So it's creating that positive mindset where they focus more on what they can do and rather than dwelling on a mistake.
Right, of course. Now, let's say, same thing, the defender made a couple mistakes. Would you take him out and then talk to him? Or would you just keep him in there to get his confidence back? Or how would you handle that?
I'd never take a player out for making a mistake at all. We had a player recently, had a lot of success last year, did extremely well. And this year, for a number of different reasons, he hasn't hit that form that he had last year. And we played a game recently where the defender was getting the better of him. He's an attacking player. And he was getting really frustrated. Now, the easiest thing for me to do would switch him from the left side to the right side so he could have more success against the weaker defender that was playing for the opposition. But I didn't want to. I wanted him to go through that challenge of trying to beat that defender in 1v1 situations. And after the game, we spoke about it. And he actually said, I'm glad you didn't switch me because I need to face those challenges. So this kid's very self-aware. He was very emotional, frustrated. But just because he was failing in that moment doesn't mean, that we have to change anything. He has to go through that process. He has to learn how to face adversity and handle it. And then not just that, it helps him adapt and improve his game when he goes through struggles, because it's the so-called failures that are going to help you improve the most. If we had switched him to the other side and he had loads of success, I don't think in the long run that's going to help him. But every situation is different. Sometimes a player may be struggling. So, for example, a player that's playing up with our reserve team may be struggling. Now, instead of keeping him there, maybe he needs time down with his own age group to have some success, just to give him a little bit of confidence. Then he can go back up. Maybe he comes down to do what he's really good at, or work on something that's hindering him at the next level, so that when he goes back up, he has more confidence. So every situation is different, but I don't think you should ever punish a player. You need to help them through the process. They need to learn how to handle adversity.
Okay.
And there's different ways of managing that.
Okay. Yeah, so just keep them in there, let them kind of solve their own problem, and then talk to them afterwards.
Yeah, and like I said, it depends on the situation, but
Of course.
I think they have to go through some discomfort
Hmm.
because that's part of the process of getting better. You can't just solve all the problems for them. They have to initially try to solve them themselves. And the example of the winger was he was struggling to get past a very good defender. So he had to come up with other ways other than what he's been used to doing.
Right, right, right.
So now he's learned from that experience. So next time we play them, now he's going to approach the game a little bit different when he comes up against his defender.
Okay.
So it's all part of the process of helping players improve.
Okay. No, yeah, I completely agree. And every player, like you said, every situation is different. Same thing is for every player, right? Every player is different.
Yeah, every player needs something different, and you can't. I know we're touching on player movement now. You can't treat every player the same. Just because a young player is doing really well doesn't mean we promote them all of a sudden. It could
Hmm.
be aspects of his game. So physically, you could be ready to play in an older age group, or technically you could be ready, but emotionally you may not be ready.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you have to take a holistic approach when you're evaluating a player and his progress, and then look at what he needs at that time. What's the most important element that needs to be worked on, and
Okay.
then how you make your decision.
So like this player that we just mentioned, right? He was playing on one side, he was having trouble with the defender. If he had told you, Coach, switch me to the other side, had you switched them? Or would you
No,
just okay, okay, okay. That was my question right there.
no. But if he had asked me that, say during the first half,
Hmm.
and I'd say no, and obviously you're playing the game, so you can't have a long drawn out discussion
Right.
in the first half. I would just say, look, keep trying, and let him just go through that emotion, that adversity, and then we'd chat at half time, and then we'd have another chat at the end of the game, and we'd say, right, this is why I wanted you to do this, and I think that's very important for a young player, particularly in development, is making them understand why they're doing something, why it's helping them. But yeah, I wouldn't, just because he's struggling, I wouldn't all of a sudden say, yeah, you
Do
can
whatever you want.
switch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So reflecting on your coaching journey from your early days in England and the little kids to now with the Timbers, how has your philosophy evolved over the years?
Like I said, it's your philosophy. My philosophy is based on my values, which has been shaped by my experiences, the people I've worked with. So it's constantly evolving.
Okay.
And I'm always looking at what I could be doing better. And whenever you're faced with new challenges, it makes you reflect even more. So I would never say that I have a set philosophy.
Okay.
It's constantly evolving every year. But again, it's based on my values, what I believe in, and that's shaped by who I've met and who I've learned from. So yeah, it's forever evolving, and you have to self-reflect.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, I like that one because I recently learned that one. You got to self-reflect after a game, after every practice. It's important. It helps you become a better coach.
Yeah, without a doubt. And like I said earlier, we're constantly asking the players to self-reflect, evaluate themselves. But are we actually doing that as adults? If you go to work every day and your boss is telling you that you're not good at something, so yeah, we have to reflect just as much as the players, because ultimately we want to help them the best we can. So Are we self-reflecting and trying to be the best version of ourselves?
Right. No, I absolutely agree with you there again. What advice would you give young coaches aspiring to work in professional academies or even professional soccer?
It's a very good question. I've been very fortunate in my pathway. I think the first thing is just being patient. Um, you know, I think as a young coach, everybody has aspirations, ambitions to coach in a first team somewhere in the world.
Yeah.
But realistically, that doesn't always happen. Um, and you have to be patient in the process. I think, yes, you can have goals and ambitions, but focus on what you're doing at present. Be the best version of yourself and do the best you can at what you're doing. So if you're coaching a U12 girls team, be the best U12 girls coach you can be. Opportunities will always come along. So if you're self-reflecting and self-developing constantly, you're going to get another opportunity that's going to lead you one step closer to what you want to do. So I think patience is key, because often I've seen this a lot where coaches are always looking for the next best thing, and they're losing sight of actually developing as a coach. So if they become impatient and they're chasing the next best thing, that opportunity may come along and then they're not ready for it.
Okay.
So that's the first thing, is just be patient in the process and develop as a coach. And the second thing, which I've touched on, is develop a coaching philosophy. Okay. Not necessarily a style of play, but understand who you are as a person, who you are as a coach, and how that reflects on you coaching. What you've seen at the weekend, what you've seen in training from your players, does that reflect who you are and the values you want to instill in the players? So I think it's really, really important to establish a coaching philosophy, and that comes with time. Again, you've got to be patient and continue to learn about yourself. But those are two of the most important things, I think, for any young coaches, to be patient and develop a coaching philosophy. And then in addition to that, is obviously networking, being around good people, exposing yourself to different environments. All those things are important. But I think developing a coaching philosophy and being patient in the process is very, very important.
Right. And like you mentioned before, patience, because nowadays everybody wants it fast, wants it now.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Passion.
Exactly. And then you'll find maybe you have ambitions to be an academy coach at a certain age level. But when you start coaching, maybe you'll find that you're very good at working with young players. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think we have a tendency to think that just because a coach works with a U18 academy team means they're better than a coach that works with a U12 academy team. No, that's not the case at all. You need to be an expert in your field and want to be. So there's nothing wrong with working with younger players. And I think there's an obsession with trying to climb the ladder as fast as possible. Right. So just being patient in the process, you'll learn about yourself, you'll develop a coaching philosophy, and you'll also learn what you're really, really good at, and embrace that.
Not too long ago, I had a guest on here, and he said kind of the same thing. He said it differently. Enjoy the process.
Mm-hmm.
When you get that C license or even D license, take your time. Don't jump ahead. Go get the other license. Enjoy the process before you jump on.
Exactly. Yeah. It's part of your journey. Like we've touched on, as part of the player's journey in developing and facing adversity. It's the same for coaching. Enjoying every experience you have. And I've been fortunate to have a lot of experience, met different people, seen different cultures, traveled around the world, and I've enjoyed every second of it.
Right. What skills or mindset do you believe are most important for success?
Very similar to player development, actually. I think you have to be passionate first about coaching.
Okay.
If we're talking about coaching, passionate about coaching.
Right. Yeah.
You have to love the game. I think the moment you stop loving the game and becoming passionate for what you do, the players will see it straight away. And then you've got to think, well, why are you actually doing it? You have to be motivated to improve and want to be better, because ultimately, the better you are, the better you can help a player.
Yeah.
So there has to be an intrinsic motivation to be better. And you should want to be patient as well. Have patience with players, because they're people as well. And I think sometimes coaches lose sight of the personal interactions and how important they are in coaching. And we hear it all the time, you know. You have more success if you create those connections with players.
Yep. Yeah. How would you define success in soccer?
There's different forms of success. There's success in terms of players signing a contract. There's success in a player going to college. But there's also success in you've helped a player through a process. You may have some off-field challenges, and you've been a part of helping him through that, or you've helped him in his process of becoming a young man from a teenager and instilling good habits. So I think it's not just signing a contract. There's so many different forms of success.
Right. Okay.
Ultimately, how have you helped that player?
How you shape them, just not at the player, but the human side as well, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Looking ahead, what are your long-term coaching goals or ambitions?
If you'd asked me probably 10 years ago, I would probably said, yeah, I want to work in the first team. To be honest, right now, the older I've got and the longer I've coached, I just try to enjoy and focus on what I'm doing. So right now, I'm a U18s head coach in an academy. I enjoy doing that. And I don't look too far ahead. I know that at some point opportunities will come along. Other opportunities, whether that's in the shape of taking a role that's off the field, more of a director role, or progressing and in terms of coaching at the reserve team level. I'm not too focused on what's next, which sounds strange. I'm more focused on trying to become better at what I do. So more of an emphasis on improving how I coach, how I manage groups. So a year or two, that's my focus, is how can I become better? Is it a specific course that I want to take? So I think the older I've got, there's other priorities in life, family and friends, and this is a passion. I dedicate a lot of time to it. But yeah, I'm not necessarily focused on chasing the next big job.
Okay.
Just trying to be successful at what I do and understand opportunities will always come.
Being patient, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just
okay.
And then if an opportunity comes, you assess it, and maybe it's not right, and you continue to do what you're doing. But yeah, just being patient, enjoy what I'm doing for now.
Okay, enjoying the process, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I forgot what I was going to ask, but let's go to the next question, I guess. I was going to ask something, but I forgot.
No worries.
Sorry about that. So, where can people know more about you, Coach Darren?
Oh, more about me. I think it's just the journey I've taken. I hope that whoever listens to this and has aspirations to coach at the academy level or beyond that can take something from my journey. So, I came from the UK. I then worked from the grassroots, worked up the ladder, I've traveled all over the world, experienced different cultures. Hopefully, that we're that maybe in a similar situation. Understand there's so many opportunities out there, and keep working hard, and they will come along one day. So I've worked really hard, and I've been fortunate as well. So I appreciate everything I've been given, and I think that's important. And hopefully that reflects if people understand the journey I've been on.
How can they where can they follow you to know more about you? Like social media? Do you have social?
Yeah, they can follow me on Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm always open to working. I think it's important, and sharing ideas with people, even if it's somebody sends me a message on LinkedIn. And they have a question, about trying to get a certain job. I'm always open to helping because I've been through that process, and I know how difficult it can be, particularly now where a lot of people want to coach, and it's a competitive environment. So a job may pop up in an academy, and all of a sudden there's 500 applicants. So always willing to help somebody that are in a situation that I might have been in a few years back.
Okay. So the next couple questions I got for you, Coach, there are just silly questions.
Okay.
Okay. What's your plan if the soccer match suddenly turns into a musical?
Say again, sorry.
What's your plan if the soccer match suddenly turns into a musical?
What's my plan?
Yes.
If it turns into a musical, I would pick the players that can dance the best to play.
Okay.
Because then I'd be more entertained.
All right.
Definitely some dancers on my team.
Would you be dancing yourself?
Yeah, I've got a few moves.
Oh, okay. That's cool. If you had to coach a game in zero gravity, how would you train your players to handle it?
Zero gravity. Oof. Well, there wouldn't be many goals scored, I don't think. I'm not sure. That's a great question. I don't know how we train for that. It'd be fun though.
It would be fun, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I'll do with that one.
Okay. Let me see. What's your approach if the soccer ball could teleport randomly during the game?
Oh, straight into the back of the net.
Say it again?
Straight into the back of the net.
Just kick it out there, or?
No, if it could teleport, you're saying that it could go anywhere. I'd want straight from kickoff, put it in the opponent's net.
If it works, works, right?
Exactly.
If every time your team scored a goal, you had to sing a karaoke song on the spot, what song would you sing?
Oh God. So I'm not much of a singer, but I think ironically this song that I'm going to choose is quite appropriate. It's an old song. I can't even remember who the artist is, but I remember singing this when I was probably 18, 19 with a group of friends. It was called "Always Look on the Bright Side of Life."
Okay.
I would sing that to the opposition.
Do you think the outcome of a soccer match would be influenced if the pitch was covered in trampolines?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I've seen that with basketball, right?
Oh yep.
Yeah, that'd be pretty fun.
It would, yeah, I think so. And the last one is, do you have a secret talent that even you don't know about?
Oh, secret talent. I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I don't have any other talents.
Okay. Do you think Penguins would be better, in your expert opinion? Do you think Penguins would be better in attack or defending?
Say again, sorry.
In your expert opinion, do you think the Penguins would be better in attacking or in defending?
What would be better in attacking and defending? Sorry, I'm losing you.
Penguins.
Oh, Penguins. Oh, defending. They'll just stand
Defending.
there,
Okay.
block the goal. 100%. They'd make a good ball.
And what formation will you use?
Uh, it'd have to be a 5-4-1.
5-4-1. Okay.
Low block, and they just stand there.
That's all the questions I got for you, Coach Darren. Thank you so much for coming on this podcast and sharing your journey with me.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you invite me on, and hopefully anybody that watches this takes something that can help them in their journey.
Absolutely. You have so much great advice, so much great points under. Like I said, thank you so much for shaping the next generation of players. You're doing an amazing job over there.
Thank you. I appreciate the kind words.
Like I said, thank you so much.
Thank you, mate. And if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to reach out.
All right, will do. Thank you.
All right. Well,
don't forget. Thank you, everybody. Don't forget the field's empty, but the conversations will be back.